Ken, I hate the snow. It's spring. There's not supposed to be more snow on the ground.
I know. That's why I made this.
What's that?
It's a birthday card.
For me? There's flowers inside. Where's the gift?
What do you mean?
You can't give me a birthday card and not get me a gift.
It's not your birthday.
Hi, and welcome to Crafts by Two. I'm George.
And I'm Ken.
And today, we have a great pop-up flower bouquet card. Ooh. Ooh.
We've seen these around on the internet, and there's lots of good videos. I was inspired by the HOUSE Piracicaba video. Like I say later in the video during the DS stuff. I didn't take Spanish. But they use just a folding technique, and they use a quarter to kind of round off the flower petals. But who wants to do all that when you've got a Cricut? So I made an SVG, and then you can also draw the little flower elements with the pen when you're cutting it out. So the Cricut does all the work for you.
Ken actually made this exact card for our friend Kara for her birthday. It was so incredible, I told him, you have to do a video on it. Our viewers would love to know how to do that.
So in the video, I show you how to make the pop-up
The pretty flower bouquet.
flowers and how I put this card base together. These are all Cricut subscription images except for the happy birthday. This is a circle that goes underneath this element, and it has the happy birthday welded to it. So everyone can get the happy birthday circle for free to use in their cards. But the Flower SVG is for our supporters on Patreon.
Yep. And one thing that you might not have seen about this card, show them the back, Ken.
I showed it before, turned it around. There's a little pocket for a gift card. Because there's so much going on inside, there was no place to put the gift card when we were giving it as a birthday gift. So there's just a little pocket on the back to slide a gift card into.
So, why don't you show us how you did it?
Okay, here we are in Design Space. I'm going to show you first how to import the flower pop-up SVG shape and prepare it for cutting. Because there's written elements and scoring, it can be a little bit tedious to set up the first time. So I recommend putting that in its own project and saving that all prepared. That way you can always have that pop-up SVG shape prepared and ready to go, and you can cut as many pieces as you like. So the first thing we need to do is upload the SVG. So that's a vector upload. So I'm going to come over here and click on Upload Vector. And then Browse. And I've already got everything set up. So I'm doing our flower pop-up CB2 SVG. We always put CB2 in the file names, so you can search on those to find our files in your collection, but you can always take a moment to add any tags that are going to make it easier for you to find these in the future if you like. So I'm just going to save it, and then select it at the bottom here to insert into the project. The first thing you want to do while it's all set and grouped is switch over to Edit and change this to 3.75 inches with the lock on. This way, 3.75 works out for good general card sizes. You end up with kind of a popped up area that's pretty big and works well with the card bases we've chosen. You can try sizing it bigger, but keep in mind that you want to be working with paper, and the bigger you go, it might be a little too flexy instead of popping its shape nicely. So if you do a different size, you'll want to do some tests first. Now we're going to switch over to the layers and come down to the bottom and ungroup. That's separated all the little pieces. So now I have the blue lines are going to be scores, and the red lines are going to be written elements, and then the shape itself, which is the pink with the black outline. So we're just going to work down the list and tapping on it to bring up the line type. We're going to switch this over to right. By default, it switches to the silver metallic, which is fine. You don't really have to be thinking about exactly what color you want to use. You just need to make sure that all the written elements are the same color. Or if you're going to mix it up, maybe having a different color around the outline. But for this basic setup, I recommend that you just do everything one color. And then if you do decide to mix it up with pen colors later, you can always maybe duplicate your project or just edit it without saving those changes. This way it's quick to just go down the list and change the line type to right. Now this last one, I accidentally switched it to right, but this is actually the score line. So these last four, you're going to switch to score. So that's how it worked out, with everything being right, except for the last four lines, which are the score lines, and then the shape itself we leave as a cut. So now we can come up to the top and select all and attach, because this is all going to be attached to the flower shape. So it's going to cut this out, and I can't remember which it does first, score or cut. It will do one and then the other. So it's going to ask you to insert either the score tool or the pen first, and then it's going to ask you to insert the other tool, and then it will cut the shape. So that's all you have to do to set this up. And remember, the color of the flower doesn't matter. I'm actually going to be doing this on white paper. That's just helping you decide the look as you're designing here, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to put that color paper onto the mat when you're cutting it. So for the final piece, you're going to cut 7 of these. So you do go, and then it's probably just easier to type it in for 7, and then apply. So it works out to being 4 on one page and 3 on another, and it still falls within 8.5 by 11, so you can easily use 8.5 by 11 paper to cut these out. You don't have to worry about fitting it on a 12 by 12. So when you're all set, you would do go and follow the on-screen instructions. So I'm going to jump over to setting up my card base now. I made one of these cards before, and I went a little simpler with the design. And while the flower pop-up inside was spectacular, I felt the outside was a little lacking. So this is a design I came up for another friend's birthday, and I made a little card holder on the back because we were giving her a gift card as part of her birthday. So I'm going to insert the images now. All the images I used are in the subscription, so I was using the filter for subscription to make sure I was choosing things that everybody would have access to if they had the subscription. They are from a variety of cartridges though, so if you don't have the subscription, you might not be able to get exactly this design unless you have the cartridges. One thing I did is, to make it easy for me, when you click the eye, you get this number, so number sign and then this code. That will let you find exactly this image. So I've gone ahead and written down all of those numbers, those codes, and we'll have those in a list on our website. So if you want to follow this same design, you can do these quickly. So the first one is a rectangle dot design label and that's number sign M40B8F. So I can quickly jump right to that and choose that to insert. Next was the flower circle tag. Oops. Number sign M3C9B6. And a bracket rectangle label. And the flourish tag. So these were the Cricut images that I used in the card. So they've all been selected, and I'm going to do insert images, and it brings all these in. And one extra image, there's not a lot of card space on the inside to really write a message or anything with that big pop-up inside. So what I chose to do was I created an SVG of the words happy birthday around a circle and integrated that into the design. And we're giving you that as part of the package. The flower itself is just for our supporters on Patreon. So that is an SVG, so I'm going to upload images, go to vector upload, and browse, and happy birthday circle CB2. So there you can see it's happy birthday attached to a circle. So I'm saving that, and now I'll insert that into the project. It's a little big, I'm going to hide that for the moment. So let's start working on the other pieces. So this rectangle dot design label is what I ended up using as the base of the card. So what I can do is switch over to edit, and we're going to rotate this 90 degrees because I folded in half to be the base of the card. And this needs to be sized at 7 inches width, which gets you about 9 for the height. So switching back to the layers, this top layer with the holes, I'm going to, first I need to ungroup, and we can reveal this background layer and delete it because we don't need it. And going to this lighter layer with the holes, the circles in it, I'm going to use the contour and just get rid of these contours at the top and the bottom in the center, because that's where I'm going to fold the card in half. So I really don't need those holes there. I can click off of contour and those circles are gone. And for the design, I kind of went with this orange and blue theme. I used white paper for the flowers, just regular copy paper because it's light and flexible, not cardstock. And I used the orange pen on it and a little bit of enhancement with some chalks that I'll be showing you. So I used kind of a yellow-orange paper for the outside base, and then behind I used this kind of lighter blue styled paper. So I just changed this one piece that's in the background to be the blue color. And just to make it a little easier, I'm going to select those two and group them again so I can move them around together, just keeping them kind of out of the way. Next was this flower circle tag. Let me send this to the back. So I'm selecting that background and move to back. So this circle tag was kind of in the center along with that happy birthday. So this I sized to 3.1 inches. So switching over to edit and 3.1. Then I can come back over to layers and let's get that happy birthday back. So I'm making this visible again. And happy birthday, whoops, don't need the color yet, was a 3 3/4, so 3.75 inches. And let me just bring this to the front. Oops. So I just had those going over, whoops, each other like that. Those were kind of centered there. And this happy birthday, I had it being a little bit of a darker blue paper. So it was kind of the one piece that stood out. And this, I made that same forget-me-not light blue that I did for the background there, because I had the same pattern on those. And you'll see how that comes together. And you'll see another little trick too. I didn't want to waste it. This flower piece that gets cut out, I kept it and put it over to the side, so it adds just another enhancement. You won't really see it here in the design, but you'll see it when we're putting it together. So now this tag I had inside, because it said happy birthday on the front, but I wanted it to kind of stand out that it was from George and I. So I made a little tag to go inside. So this, while it's grouped, I'm going to edit. And this one was 2.5. And the way it's scaled. And then ungrouping it and choosing the top piece. I then took that piece down to 2.25. And again, all of these are going to be on our website, so you can get the shapes and the sizes we chose to use. So then in the layers, I made the outside with this orange. Actually, I think I'm going to use Sync. I can't quite pick that one. So this outer larger piece for the tag, I made the same orange as the body of the card, because on the inside it's going to have this blue color being the major piece of the body. And then this piece of the tag, I just cut out a white paper. So I made that white. And it doesn't have to line up perfectly. This is not how it's going to be cut. It's not going to cut that out of the piece. I'm going to be able to layer these when I'm physically putting the card together. But this just gives a plate inside the card for that signature and helps kind of stand out and make it special. And the last was the little pocket, which I put on the back. And that's this flourish tag. And that I made 3x3. So on edit, you're actually going to undo the lock, because we're not going to do this proportionally, and make it 3x3. This gave it enough size that when I put the card in, I could use ATG tape around the two edges and the bottom, and it still gave enough of a pocket to hold the card, and a regular gift card would stick out the top. And this, I made that same light blue. So that's how those pieces are going to come together. And you don't have to worry, like I said, this is just design space. You can get a feel for how things are going to lay out, but it doesn't have to be perfect with your alignment. I did eyeball this one pretty closely, and I knew the size for this when I made that circle, so I knew how things would scale there. So now I'm going to cut these pieces, and I'll show you how to put the flower pop-ups together, and then how I enhance them a little, and then put the whole piece together with the card body and the card base. So here we go. All the pieces are cut out. I have 7 of the flowers, all my card parts, and don't forget, you wanted to keep this little extra piece because we're going to use that as an accent too. And this is kind of laid out, but I'll come back to this. Going to be using the Tombow Mono Liquid Glue, which I like, the ETG tape glider, and our Pebbles Classic Chalks, which are the basic brights, to kind of accent the design a little more. So let me set this over. And first I'm just going to kind of accent the designs a little. So some comments about the flowers first. You can see I had it draw the designs on. The center can get a little bit inked up if you're using the heavier pens. Actually, let me go grab the pen that I used. So this was the pen that I used. It's a 4A Style Mark. It's a 0.5mm pen. And this actually fits into the Cricut housing. And it does a very fine point. It's kind of soft point. So it really keeps the color going. Sometimes, you know, when you're drawing a lot, it will lose the kind of color from the pen. But these hold up really well and do a very nice fine line. And they come in a lot of different colors. And I'll have a link to them in the description of the video and on our website. But I used regular white paper, regular copy paper, printer paper, because you want to keep something that's light and flexible. You don't want to use cardstock because it might get too stiff and too thick when you layer everything together. When I made this the first time, I used paper that was, I believe, from a Walmart pack that was colored on one side and white on the other. And it had a nice look to it, and it worked well with the pens. But when you were gluing the pieces together, you could see like the white of the piece behind it kind of poking around the edges. And that, to me, just looked a little sloppy. So I decided to go with this kind of white look. That way everything kind of blends together, and I can use things like the chalks to enhance it. So basically all I did was kind of just enhance the edges a little, just to not have it be quite so harsh of a white border. And what I've done, sometimes I've done kind of just enhanced the center spokes where it's going to fold, where the longer dotted line is. And you don't have to worry about the piece that has no ink on it, because that piece is going to be behind once we put these together. Another thing I did was kind of make a center enhancement where there is nothing currently. And this is very freeform. It just gives it more of an organic feel to it. So you can really just play around and what works for you and how you like how things come together. And for this one, I thought I did kind of this approach before, where I was doing some on the center line and then some on the petal itself. So I did all those orange, but I think this time I'm going to try mixing in some blue, just because I have that blue and orange kind of motif and just bringing a little hint of color. So you have 7 pieces total. So I think I'm going to do 4 in the kind of orange and then just 3 in kind of a blue to give it a little different look. This one doesn't want to grab it. There it goes. And I'm just going to use a very light blue. I don't want it to be too strong to pull away from the orange. Oops. So that just gives it a little hint of a color. So there you go. These are all colored. So I've got 4 of the yellow or the orange and 3 blue. And you could even choose to leave this writing turned off or just leave the outline, whatever works for you, and it's your design and what you want to play with. You could even use the chalks or markers to enhance these, or just pattern paper that really works well for you. Before I put these together, I'm just going to finish up some chalking with the other pieces. So I'm going to move these to the side and bring this down. So when I'm chalking, I just like to use some of the colors to help kind of bring a little edge or dimension to the pieces. So for this, I'm going to use kind of this darker orange, just to bring out a little hint of something to the edge and around these circles. It's probably hard to see on the video. Another thing that's nice about chalking up or using ink on the edges is this is like a white core, so it's orange on both sides, but it's got a white core, so this takes away some of the edge and doesn't make it look such a hard contrast. Oh. You can be very rough with this. You don't have to be quite so fine, especially since these colors are so close. It's giving a very subtle enhancement. I'm doing the same with this little tag. This is the background, but I just wanted to have a bit of a punch when it's inside on the blue. And even this can have just a light touch around the edge. Oh, and just be careful with how much chalk you have on your fingers. I got a fingerprint on there now. And for the sizing, when we were in Design Space, I just made this a little bit smaller to fit inside, just because I wanted more of that color to pop around the edges. And that's going to be inside, kind of just against the blue underneath the flower pop out. For the happy birthday, I'm going to try something a little different. Just a little edging of a white, just to see how this pops it a little bit. Just kind of letting the brush do the work of catching those edges. So that just gives it a little bit more character and definition. And then for the blue pieces, just a little hint of the blue around the outside. And I'm just kind of pushing in from the edges to catch that white core. And then for this flower, I'm just giving a little brush over where it scored with the blade to kind of help give a little bit of definition to that. So just a little swirl of the chalk helped bring those out a little more. And this is hard to see on the video. I'll have some still photos either in the video or on our website so you can see a little bit more detail. And this is the inside of the card with the nice little butterfly. I thought it was a nice choice because the card shape kind of mimics a butterfly, especially once you open it with the flower pop-up into it. So these silicone mats, this brown piece, it's a silicone piece of plastic, and it makes cleanup really easy. All the chalk, inks just wipe right off, so that way you can clean up as you go and not have to worry about contaminating everything. So now the flowers. These are pretty quick to put together. So you'll notice there's the blank edge where there's no ink. That's going to go underneath. And it's just going to make a three-dimensional cone of a flower. So I'm using the Tombow Multi-Mono Liquid Glue, or however order you say that. And I'm just using the fine tip. And you want to just do a fine line around the outside and then at the edge. So I did just kind of a loop of the petal, then fold it over, and the line is not going to line up perfectly, but you do want to try to make sure that you don't have any excess popping out the edge here as far as the paper of the petal underneath. So you want to make sure those line up pretty good. And then I just set those aside to dry before doing the final folding. So just kind of a U. And don't put too much in the center because it will ooze out, I found. So just lining those up lightly before giving it that final press when I know I've got everything lined up. And you don't want to do just a dot. I've seen some videos where they just do a dot of glue. But if people get enthusiastic with the pop-up, opening up the card, you could actually flex these flowers quite a lot. So I like to just do that kind of U shape to make sure I'm getting a good grip. And this Tombow glue really does give a good grip in time. So I'll shut up and fast forward through the rest of these. So I'll try to order these a little and use the ones that are drying more first. You want to just give it a little time for the glue to set before you start working with them. So you should have these little cones, and now you can start folding them down, kind of emphasizing those score lines. The score lines aren't going to be enough in this case. They're just more to help you with the folding. So what I like to do is just kind of visually line it up, holding that center of the three in place, and then just smooth it down a little with my finger. They're going to buckle a little. You don't want to force it too much. You're really just more concerned with getting a good crease towards the outer petals. Then you're just going to shift it again to the next 3. So this was folded like this, and all I'm doing is kind of folding over the next petal to just give it another quick crease with my fingers. So again, I'm just kind of tucking the petal underneath and lining things up, holding that center and forcing it to crease a little more. So this makes sure that it's all going to pop and crease and fold up appropriately. Then just set that to the side and do it with the next one. So folding it in half, making sure the center lines up, and just giving it a quick push down with the fingers. Then opening it slightly, folding the petal underneath, holding that center, and giving a quick push with the fingers. Folding the next petal underneath, holding the center, and just quickly smoothing it down. So I'll fast forward through these again. So just kind of a close-up one. I just kind of fold it in half, line up that center piece and hold it there, and then just crease the outer edges lightly. Then I open it just a little bit, fold that petal that was on the outside under, and again just hold that center to make sure things are lined up, and then just crease those edges a little. Open it a little, fold that petal underneath, hold the center, and just crease the edges a little. So now that we have these ready to go, you want to, if you've got kind of any pattern, so there's my blue ones, so you kind of arrange them and fan pattern. So it's kind of going to be 3, then 2 on the outside, 1 in the center, another 2 on the outside, and then another one in the center. So the way this plays out is these are my blue ones, these, that one, and that one, and then the rest are the orange. So it's gonna kind of have a little bit of a fan shape to them. And this approach is totally inspired by, I'm gonna butcher it, the HOUSE Piracicaba. I did not take Spanish in high school, and their 3D flower pop-up card video. That's where I got the original idea, but I chose to make an SVG because I liked the cleaner look to it and being able to enhance it with the writing easier. So what you're going to do is, one thing she did in her video is you're going to put a little dot of glue on those pieces, those pieces, those pieces, and that piece. So nothing on this until you're finished building. So you're going to have your 3 dots here, 2 dots on the top of these 2 outer pieces. And then all 3 in the center. And then just the top petal on these 2 pieces. And then you'll start bringing it together. So you take this outer piece and you just lay it on the one outer petal. And depending upon your glue, you'll have a little bit of wiggle room. Remember, you've got some other glue going on there, so you don't want to push it down with your hand. And then the same, this is that top 3. We're just bringing in that outer piece and putting it on there. So you've got that little flower going on. Then you'll bring up this piece to cover the top 3, lining up with the other one you just did as the base. Then you'll bring these 2 in on the side and just try to kind of pinch it with your fingers on the edges around the petals just to make sure you're lining things up. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it does help keep things in alignment. And that leaves you with 3 pieces of, or 3 spots of glue at the top. And you just bring in this last piece and set that on top. Now that you have clean edges, you can give everything a nice firm push down. Don't wiggle things too much because you don't want to shift the pieces around too much. Just giving everything a real good pinch to make sure the glue's all tight and set. Now I know you're going to be wanting to pop this open and see how it looks for the 3D, but I really recommend that you set it aside for a minute or 2 to let the glue really set. So I'm going to set that over to the side and then start bringing the card base together. So first, this is the front, and then this is going to be on the inside. And just get a feel for how the pattern plays out. This one kind of goes in all directions, so it works out pretty well. And then on the outside, the plain blue on the back side of the paper pops through those holes. So this can be a little tricky. But I use the ATG because you can kind of roll it along. You don't have to get right on the edge, but if you do go over, you can just kind of push the tape inside with your fingers. And again, the silicone, the stuff just rolls right up. So here where it was overlapping the hole and not quite lining up, I'm just giving it a little tweak so it's not on the outside edges. And I stopped at the center because this does get a little bit thick. I didn't put any tape here at the very top or the bottom where we're going to be creasing it and folding it over, because you don't want it to be too stiff that it's hard to fold over or score. And just on the outside edges, I gave a little line And you could always use like a rubber eraser to kind of get rid of the extra ATG like you would do with a Xyron sometimes. But just kind of giving it a little push with your finger is usually more than enough. So this one, I don't have to worry about the paper too much. It's pretty much a generic pattern, so I don't have to make sure one side's right side up and one isn't. This one, even though it spins around, your eye's naturally going to come over to this side when you open the card up, so I wanted this side facing up. Now, pardon my head getting in the way, possibly, but I just want to line this up visually because with the ATG tape, it's not very forgiving. I did one with glue and ruined it because I thought the glue would be more forgiving than it was. So there you go. It's not perfect. There's some edges, but it's handcrafted. And there's a little piece of the glue that didn't quite get folded under. So just give that a smooth down. And I forgot to grab the scoring board. So just kind of tuck that in the corner and it works out at the 4.5. Since this is going to be so thick, I end up scoring both sides. But the thickness actually helps with the 3D because it gives the something to work with as far as the tension. So that's the card. It's going to open up like that. But for now, just going to keep it flat while I finish putting the other elements on. So on the back, where the gift card's going to go, I just had the little pocket. And for that, I just run a line of the ATG tape around 3 of the 4 sides, keeping the top open so it's a little pocket. So to be able to do something like the color coordinating subway card, and that just slides right into the pocket for your gift card. So now on the front, this is going to go on for the happy birthday with this on top. So again, just running a circle of the ATG on this. And this kept the lettering down pretty good. I didn't feel a need to really glue down the happy and the birthday. So just kind of eyeballing the placement here. It seems good. This like just kind of had skewed a little, so I'm just bringing it so I can make sure I'm lining things up. But I had the flower kind of at a little jaunty angle. Now we'll switch over to the glue for the center of the flower. And then, like I said, I didn't want to let this go to waste, so I'm just going to kind of take advantage of the letter not being glued down and just kind of tuck that in underneath, just to give it a little bit of something more. And this is where the chalk helps to make that stand out a little bit more. Probably could have chalked that edge a little bit, but in person it's not that bad. So that's how that's going to look. And I'm going to put the white on here, but I'm not going to put this on the inside just yet. This would actually be a good time if you wanted to sign this a little easier. So there's that. Set it to the side for the moment. So now you're ready to put your 3D in. So you want to have the open notch towards the center, and you don't want to put it way out here, because if you do that, you're going to be adhering it to these two outer petals, and you want, if you put it too far out, when you open it, you're only going to be able to open the card so far, because you're going to hit the limits of the paper. So to be able to open the card really wide, you want this pretty close, but not butted right up against that inside edge. And I used my little extra notch here to line things up. So I'm just going to put some little curve on there. Make sure you get the right one opposite the notch, and just a little bit on the top curve here. You don't want to do the whole petal, just the curve, because that's going to be enough to hold it onto your card. So just make sure that this is close to the edge here, centered. And again, it doesn't have to be totally perfect. Give that a little push around the glue, and now close it and just hold it for a moment while your glue sets. I'm just going to let this close and set for a few minutes, and we'll come back to it. Just let the chalks weigh that down. So now that that's set, we will have the unveiling. So there you go. And it just folds right back in. So you could take your sign tab, and while things were drying, I took a moment to clean up, so I put my glue and tape away, but that's where I would put it, just kind of with, you know, love, Ken and George. And it just gives it enough character to stand out against that nice pop-up design.
It's so great. I love this card. It keeps me entertained.
So, like I mentioned in the video, the list of Cricut images I used are going to be on the site, and I gave all the little codes so you can look them up quickly. But I'll also put a link up to the file that has everything except the happy birthday circle for the card base. The flowers are a separate file because that was an SVG. So anybody will also be able to get the happy birthday SVG circle from our website in the link in the description below. And then our Patreons will be able to get the flower SVG on our Patreon blog. You'll get an email about it.
This is a great card for spring, or for birthday, or for thank you, or for I'm sorry, or get well soon. It's a great card for anything.
Well, if you take the happy birthday off the front.
Yeah, I guess you'd have to.
But you can enhance the flowers in any kind of way. I use the chalks, but I've always wanted to try some Wink of Stella.
Ooh, that would be very pretty.
And you don't have to draw all the lines. You can leave some turned off, or all of them turned off when you go to cut it yourself.
That's what's great about crafting with a Cricut. You don't have to make it the way they show it. You can make it any way you want it. If you'd like to subscribe to our channel, there's a button. Someplace over there. I guess it's moved now down to the bottom, but maybe they'll move it over here at some point. I don't know. Click on the subscribe button below, or the cool icon that's in some place on a corner, maybe.
And if you found the video entertaining, helpful, or educational, give it a thumbs up. That'll help YouTube share our video with other viewers who might be looking for the same thing.
You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, Facebook, the web,
Google Plus.
Google Plus. Did I forget anything?
I think that's it.
That's it for now. We'll probably add more as soon as Ken finds out what there is new and cool and exciting.
But those are all in the description on YouTube. So down below, click show more if you're on YouTube. Plus, all that's on our website, so you can always go to craftsby2.com.
Ken, you know what I really like?
Ice cream?
Oh, yeah, I do like ice cream. But I like comments from viewers. You can leave a comment below, if that's where they still are.
So we mentioned Patreon, and Patreon is a site where you can support creators and crafters in their work. You can go and pledge any amount, and we're pretty much changing things up a little bit, that if you pledge anything, you'll get access to our SVGs.
Patreon starts as low as $1 a month.
We appreciate your support. It helps us do a lot more videos and fun giveaways too.
So that's it for this week. It was exciting. Beautiful spring card. Didn't melt any of the snow though. So until next week, or maybe sooner, we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
That's what's that's what's So remember, if you found this video, stop saying remember.
Stop saying so.
Yeah. Remember?